Hey, everybody. So here we are. We have reached a milestone with regard to the furlough. So right now, we have just made uh, history. We are now sitting in the longest furlough in history. Now, if you've been following my videos for the past couple of weeks, you know that I've been talking a lot about our emotional state while we're here experiencing this furlough, specifically a concept I came up with that I called furlough intelligence. And here we are, well past the mile marker in terms of this now being the longest furlough in history. What do we do? How do we respond? What is the answer? Right? Unfortunately, right now, if you're following the news, there doesn't seem to be an answer in sight or an end in sight. We have a lapse in appropriations, and no one's coming to the table with any type of negotiations whatsoever. So, what does that mean? That means that roughly 650,000 federal employees are without work and without pay. We have now missed, if you're a federal employee, we've missed two payments, two paychecks, and people are feeling the pinch. Um, there are people who are going to food banks now for the first time in their life ever. They're in lines looking for food. Some churches are involved with food banks and they're providing that assistance, and it's helpful, and it definitely helps all of us to kind of get through a tough time. But, you know, what is the emotional state of the folks that have to stand in those food lines for the first time ever? What's going through their minds? I was watching the news today, and a young lady talked about her situation. She's been working for the federal government for over 20 years. She has an advanced degree. In her mind, she doesn't understand how she got here. She's gone to school. She thought she did all the right things. And here she is. Not just furloughed, but she was actually fired. Her agency, the agency that she worked for, was, just eliminated. What do they do? And so, you know, like her and others, I too am currently a furloughed employee. And I just wanted to get on here tonight and just kind of talk with all of you to just kind of check the pulse and kind of share some thoughts and ideas about how we can best um, navigate the situation. I talked briefly in earlier videos about reimagining what we do in life, right? How do we earn a living now? Maybe it's time for us to consider other options outside of the federal government, right? Meaning, working or trying to earn a living in the private sector. Maybe you strike out on your own, right? There was a gentleman in the news who just started a hot dog stand on the weekend. It's supposed to be a fun hobby. That's become his full-time hustle now, selling hot dogs. I mean, that's the level. This is where we are. And so, what do we do, right? And how does furlough intelligence help at all in any of this? Well, this is what I believe. I think, emotionally speaking, as we step through this tumultuous time in history, um, the tumult that we're feeling, I believe, does tend to trigger certain emotional responses. And because we're in these tight situations, it may push us to say and do things that are probably out of character for us, or things that we may not have said or done had it not been for this current situation we're in. And that's completely understandable, right? I mean, we're people, we're human beings, and we all have emotions, and we have families to take care of, we have spouses, we have friends, and, we're a lot of us are just starting to really feel the pinch. Um, TSA workers, those poor brothers and sisters that work for the airlines, right? Air traffic control. I mean, the stress is really starting to increase, especially as we move closer to the holiday season. Outside of furlough, we all know what that looks like. The flights increase. Sometimes they're canceled. There are delays. There are all kinds of things going on normally. Now here we are, furloughed. Those poor folks are going to work. without pay, expected to do a good job while the tensions are rising. This is really tough. So what do we do, friends? I mean, how do we, what can we say to one another that can really help uh, or serve as a salve, right, to this very difficult situation? What things can we do? I know for levity and for the sake of taking a break, people have gone to YouTube. They've gotten on social media, and maybe they have discussions like this. Some of them will entertain, just doing things, small things that would help distract from our crazy lives. And why do I keep going back to that? Before I was alive, right, we had the Great Depression, right? 1929 through the 30s, early 30s. And what I've come to understand about that time period is while people were depressed and things were really tough in this country during the Depression, people still went to the movies. Why? Everything in history has shown me that people were going to the movies even though they were tight and not working and things were really rough to escape their everyday reality. It happens. And I'm not, advocating for all of us to become huge moviegoers, right? What I am suggesting, though, is that we use some of these things that are in front of us, like a YouTube channel, social media, a friend, a gathering, to help us sort of not distract so much so as to offer some relief. Lots of us need relief, right, from the tough circumstance. I mean, for our mental state, a lot of us, we're not wired for this type of, you know, intense strain, right? It does take its toll eventually. And so what do we do? And so again, I talked about this idea of Furlough intelligence, right? I talked about, emotional intelligence and of course the 5 stages of grief. Here we are stepping through all these things. We've gone through denial and anger, right? We've gone through all these steps that the Swiss psychiatrist, Dr. Ross, has framed for us. And what does that look like, right? Where do we sit or where do we fall on this scale if we embrace the concept of these 5 stages, right? Maybe we're all at different stages at the same time. Maybe all of us are sort of moving slowly in the same direction at the same pace. I don't know. I'm just kind of speaking to it just off the cuff. The few folks that I do encounter with on a day-to-day, they would share sentiments that would lead me to believe that we're all sort of moving through this process uh, basically in the same direction. We're all feeling the same pinch. We're feeling the same level of pressure. And so, what do I want to say to you tonight? What I want to say is, I try to come up or try to think about ways that you can still offer some positive, right, conversation or help. Maybe some people have more resources than maybe someone else. Let's share. These churches and these organizations that are helping with food services, SNAP benefits have run out. And so a lot of them are coming, stepping up to the plate, a lot of churches and other organizations to help people. I think we can do the same thing. We can be equally as neighborly, right? Maybe we help someone change a tire or, hey, how about this? Date nights, right? If your neighbor has young children and, you see them, stressing out about, the furlough, maybe offer to babysit for them, right? Give them a break, a night out. And then, vice versa. Maybe they can do the same for you if you're in a similar, situation. I mean, little things like that I think can help offer some small measure of relief. It's needed. I think it would help, right? In the meantime, look for other opportunities, right? Uh, some of us have to go out and beat the pavement and look for different types of employment just to keep food on the table and the lights on. There are a lot of people who are suffering from energy bills and the heat and the cool. I mean, they don't have the income or the money to keep these resources moving or operating for them, and they're suffering. And so again, let's all kind of take a step back, dig deep, maybe deeper than we've been digging already. I'm sure everyone on here has been a huge help to your neighbors and your family. And for that, I mean, what can I say? That's the humanity in all of us. I think we are now being tested in a major way, tested for our humanity. How humane can we be to one another? I think this is the moment, right? This is our moment to kind of step up and not necessarily shine, but help. It's not about me. It's not about us individually, but collectively. I think we can, kind of grab each other's arm, put a hand on the shoulder, and lend assistance. So that's my video for tonight. I just wanted to, again, get on here tonight and touch base with you, kind of check the pulse. Again, we're now in a new status. This is now the longest furlough in history. How do we respond to this? I think we are to consider our furlough intelligence, tap into our humanity even deeper than we have been up to this point, and let's help one another, go arm in arm, reach out to our brothers and sisters and our neighbors, and lend a hand. We all have the capacity to do so. Let's try our best to make a difference and help one another, right? Take care. That's all I have.